Hello and welcome. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran and this is Express News. India's President Draupadi Murmu addressed the Foundation Day ceremony of the Bharatiya Biswa Basu Shabar Samaj in the eastern state of Odisha. The Governor and Chief Minister of Odisha received the President upon her arrival in Bhubaneswar. Earlier in the day, President Murmu attended the Silver Jubilee of the Chhattisgarh Legislative Assembly as its chief guest in Raipur. President Murmu said that the Assembly is a model not only for India but for the world since it came into existence in 2000. President Murmu, in her message on the occasion of the World TB Day, commended India's TB elimination program and urged stakeholders and participants to work collectively to make the country TB-free. India's Health and Family Welfare Minister J.P. Nadda launched a book based on India's TB Mukt Bharat Abhiyan on World Tuberculosis Day in New Delhi. The theme of this year's World Tuberculosis Day is Yes, We Can End TB, Commit, Invest, Deliver. India hopes to eliminate the disease by 2025. India's Sports, Shipping and Waterways Minister Sarbananda Sonowal is on a 3-day visit to Singapore. He attended the inauguration of the Singapore Maritime Week, which is an annual gathering of the international maritime community. Minister Sonowal addressed the Singapore Maritime Week. He said that India's decisive maritime initiatives are injecting fresh momentum into global shipping. The minister held talks with industry leaders on India's maritime potential at the Singapore Maritime Week. The minister held a discussion with Singapore's Minister of State for Transport and Law, Murali Pillai, on the sidelines of the Singapore Maritime Week. On the sidelines of the event, the Indian minister also met France's Transport Minister Philippe Tabarot. They discussed about India-France maritime ties and their shared role in the global shipping industry. Minister Sonowal also met the Indian diaspora and discussed the rise of a developed India. India and Singapore have shared a close bond over 60 years, woven through centuries of maritime and trade ties, migration and cultural harmony. India's Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar, who also chairs the country's upper chamber of legislature, on Monday met Leader of the House J.P. Nadda and Leader of the Opposition Mallikarjun Kharge to discuss judicial accountability and the Judicial Appointments Commission Act. There was ruckus in the Rajya Sabha over Karnataka Deputy Chief Minister's remark on changing the constitution. Parliamentary Affairs Minister Kiren Rijiju demanded an explanation from the Leader of Opposition. The Lok Sabha took up a discussion on the finance bill for consideration and passing after it saw multiple adjournments over protests by opposition members. The chief of India's markets regulator announced that the SEBI has decided to set up a high-level committee on conflict of interest, disclosures pertaining to property, investments and liabilities, comprising eminent persons and experts with relevant background. Indian security forces recovered ammunition from the site of an encounter at Sanyal in Kathua district of India's Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. The Indian Army, along with other relevant agencies, are carrying out a cordon and search operation in the area. The Media and Entertainment Association of India, in collaboration with the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, organized Waves, an anime and manga contest in Mumbai on Sunday. 297 participants took part in the contest, which aimed to champion India's creator economy under the Create in India initiative. Australia has offered extended work rights and career support to Indian students. The announcement was made in New Delhi, where top Australian universities showcased Adelaide as a premier global study destination. Indian equity indices ended on a strong note on Monday. At close, the Sensex was up 1.4% to stand at 77,984.38 points. The Nifty was up 307.95 points and was at 23,658.35 on Monday. The Indian rupee ended 34 paise higher at 85.63 per dollar on Monday. Gold futures maturing on April 4 were priced at Rs 87,670 per 10 grams on the multi-commodity exchange. Silver futures for May 5 maturity stood at Rs 98,023 per kg on the MCX. India has doubled its gross domestic product in a decade at a growth of 105% from $2.1 trillion in 2015 to $4.3 trillion in 2025. According to data released by the IMF, India stands tall now as the fifth largest country in terms of GDP in the world after the US, China, Germany and Japan. Keeping in view India's vision of becoming self-reliant, production-linked incentive or PLI schemes for 14 key sectors are under implementation to enhance India's manufacturing capabilities and exports. Brent crude oil prices inched higher on Monday by 0.31% to end at $71.83 per barrel. Australia will bring forward $1 billion in defence spending in Tuesday's federal budget to boost its military capability. Turkey's embattled Ekrem İmamoğlu was officially nominated as a presidential candidate by the opposition Republican People's Party for the 2028 election as thousands continue to protest against İmamoğlu's arrest. Turkey's main opposition, the CHP or the Republican People's Party, held a symbolic primary on Sunday, drawing 15 million voters in a show of support for İmamoğlu. İmamoğlu's wife Dilek denounced the charges against her husband as unlawful and an example of blatant injustice. Meanwhile, the European Commission urged Turkey to uphold democratic values following the jailing of Istanbul mayor and opposition leader Ekrem İmamoğlu. US and Russian officials held talks in Saudi Arabia aimed at making progress towards a broad ceasefire in Ukraine, with Washington, D.C. eyeing a Black Sea ceasefire deal before securing a wider agreement. The Kremlin on Monday said Russia and the US had a common understanding. It added that President Vladimir Putin spoke to UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan about the OPEC Plus agreement and the Russia-US talks on Ukraine. Earlier on Sunday, US officials held talks with the Ukrainian delegation led by Defense Minister Rustem Umerov in Saudi Arabia. The Ukrainian minister reiterated his President Volodymyr Zelensky's aim of achieving a just and lasting peace for Ukraine and Europe. President Zelensky said that the discussions with the US in Saudi Arabia were productive and that Ukraine's delegation contributed constructively to the talks. France's President Emmanuel Macron will host a summit of the Coalition of the Willing supporting Ukraine on 27th March to further discuss military aid for Kyiv. Usha Vance, wife of U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, will travel to Greenland on Thursday, leading a U.S. delegation amid President Trump's controversial push for the U.S. to annex the territory. Greenland's outgoing Prime Minister Mute Iged on Monday accused Washington, D.C. of interfering in its political affairs. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas visited Jerusalem on Monday and warned that Israel's strikes on Syria and Lebanon threaten to worsen the situation. Canada's new Prime Minister Mark Carney on Sunday called early elections for April 28, pledging to defeat U.S. President Trump's hope of annexing the country. U.S. government officials defended their use of wartime powers to deport 137 Venezuelan migrants, calling it necessary to protect U.S. citizens. Venezuela denied these claims, and relatives and advocates disputed the allegations. A plane carrying 199 migrants deported from the U.S. reached Venezuela on Monday. The flight landed after Venezuela announced that it had reached an agreement with the U.S. to resume repatriation flights. South Korea's Constitutional Court has reinstated Prime Minister Han Duck-soo as acting president, dismissing his impeachment by 5 votes to 1. The court's decision sparked widespread protests, with hundreds of thousands of South Koreans taking to the streets over the weekend. Addressing a gathering on Monday, Han Duck-soo said he would try to safeguard the country's national interests amid a global trade war. Silenced Prime Minister on Monday faced a no-confidence motion in Parliament as the opposition alleged she was being unduly influenced by her father, a former Prime Minister, and is mismanaging the country. Time for a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. South Korea declared a state of disaster as multiple wildfires ravaged the southern regions, killing at least 4 and displacing hundreds. In response to the crisis, acting President Han Duck-soo visited one of the hardest hit areas to assess the situation and coordinate relief efforts. Wildfires are raging across central and southern Chile, including the Araucanía region, which prompted President Gabriel Boric to declare a state of emergency. A section of the historic Roman bridge in central Spain collapsed after heavy rains caused a river to overflow and flood the area. A sudden hailstorm hit Bolivia's El Alto, forcing residents and vendors to seek shelter and clear hail from their stalls and shops. In response to the unexpected storm, Bolivia's Legislative Assembly approved $75 million for disaster relief, with nearly 800 homes destroyed and thousands affected. A collaborative dive expedition between Chinese and New Zealand scientists has revealed new marine life forms in a trench located off the southern coast of New Zealand. Venezuela will cut the public sector work week to 3.5 days after low water levels began to threaten hydroelectric power generation. Heavy rainfall and hailstorms lashed the isolated areas of Odisha over the past 24 hours. Many parts of India are experiencing intense temperatures with heat waves alerts issued by the Indian Met Department for Delhi, Karnataka, Goa and Jharkhand. The first cruise ship of the season arrived at the island of Santorini following waves of earthquakes in February, which caused cruise ships to divert to other islands. The Japan Meteorological Agency announced the start of the cherry blossom season in the country's capital after observing a benchmark tree at the Yasukuni Shrine. Parisians voted in a referendum to pedestrianize a further 500 of the city's streets. This aims to curb car usage and improve air quality. Hundreds of people visited the hallway of Romania's Galati University, which was turned into an art exhibit showcasing objects crafted from scrap metal. The 2025 Macau International Parade set off from the ruins of St. Paul's with almost 1,800 performance artists from 15 countries. The parade included 23 international troops and 60 local teams. The theme of the year is Love, Peace and Cultural Integration. Indigenous leaders from around the world wrapped up a 46-day journey in Chile's O'Higgins region with dancing, singing and prayers for the protection of nature. The indigenous people's journey began in Italy and passed through India, Australia and Zimbabwe before concluding in Chile. Greece's most famous landmark, the Acropolis of Athens, was engulfed in darkness to mark Earth Hour. The global event aims to raise awareness about climate change. Residents of the town of Camuani in Cuba showed off their allegorical floats with fireworks and music to celebrate one of their most important traditions called La Parandas. Costa Rican artist Carlos Vargas, known as Tapado, performed an instrumental concert for dogs at the urban festival called Amon Cultural in the country's capital, San Jose. Colombia's last great ape Yoko embarked on his journey from Pereira to a sanctuary in Brazil, marking a significant step for animal welfare in the country. Hundreds of people gathered in the central square to enjoy the Nowruz holiday in Mongolia, the Kazakh festival which marks the arrival of spring. Hundreds of people gathered in India's northern Jaipur city to witness a classic and vintage automobile exhibition. The event featured a lineup of at least 100 vintage cars, some of which are more than 100 years old. The center of attraction was the 1913 Ford Model T with wooden wheels. Conan O'Brien accepted the Mark Twain Prize for American Humor during a gala held at the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts in Washington, D.C. William Shakespeare's Othello officially opened on Broadway at the Ethel Barrymore Theatre in New York City. France's director Alain Chabat has unveiled a new 3D animated series based on the iconic Asterisk comics at a festival in Lille, France. There are 5 episodes of about 20 minutes each in the Asterisk series, with 3 being shown at the festival before they go live on Netflix starting 30th April. Disney's remake of Snow White topped the North American box office this weekend with an estimated take of $43 million. Disney has announced that the Jonas Brothers will be recording an upbeat new theme song to celebrate Disneyland's upcoming 70th anniversary. The theme song, called Celebrate Happy, will be heard across various entertainment experiences as part of the park's anniversary festivities beginning 16th of May. Miss Universe Victoria Kher Thelvik and Miss Universe India Riya Singha visited the iconic Taj Mahal in India's Agra city. Bollywood actor Vicky Kaushal's historical drama Chhawa earned rupees 10 crore on its sixth weekend, taking the total collection to 580 crore rupees. Excel Entertainment has announced their upcoming action-packed thriller Ground Zero will release on 25th April, starring actor Imran Hashmi in the lead role. In the IPL, Rachin Ravindra led Chennai Super Kings to an 4-wicket win over Mumbai Indians in their campaign opener at Chepauk on Sunday. Afghanistan's Noor Ahmed made a stellar debut for Chennai, becoming the player of the match for taking a 4-wicket haul for just 18 runs. Ishan Kishan's century and Head's 50 helped Sunrisers Hyderabad to beat Rajasthan Royals by 44 runs at their home ground on Sunday. Rajasthan's Jofre Archer set an IPL record by conceding 76 runs in his 4-over spell against Hyderabad. This performance is now the most expensive in IPL history. A depleted Lucknow Super Giants to take on Delhi Capitals in Visakhapatnam on Monday. Rishabh Pant dons a new hat as captain of Lucknow. BCCI announced the central contracts for the India women's team for 2024-25. A total of 16 players received central contracts this time. In powerlifting events at the Khelo India Para Games, Punjab's Seema Rani clinched gold in the 61 kg category, while Zainab Khatun secured the silver medal. Novak Djokovic scripted history after recording the most number of wins in ATP 1000 Masters events on Sunday as he entered the pre-quarters of the Miami Open 2024. Mira Andreeva dreams of a sunshine double, and a third straight WTA 1000 title ended on Sunday as she lost to the USA's Amanda Anisimova in Miami Open. Three-time Grand Slam champion Sabalenka will now face American defending champion Danielle Collins in the round of 16 on Monday. Alexander Zverev secured a straight-set win to advance to the next round, where he will face Australia's Jordan Thompson. Germany beat Italy on Sunday to advance to the last four stage of the Nations League. France beat Croatia 5-4 on penalties after their quarter-final tie ended 2-2 on aggregate. Portugal's Francisco Trincao and Cristiano lead their team to a 5-2 win over Denmark on Sunday to qualify for the semi-finals of the Nations League. New Zealand reached the Soccer World Cup for the third time with a 3-0 win over New Caledonia on Monday. And it's a wrap. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.